Welcome back, Bolt fam. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Chargers Powder Hour. Colin Appel and Miles Raruka here. We are your co-host. My friend, how we doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Monday night, feeling a little sluggish, can't lie. Just a big weekend, watched some college hoops. And yeah, it's just a typical Monday for me here, man. It's kind of shitty outside. But I'm ready to talk about some sports ball. So how are you doing,
Heck
man?
yes, man. I'm doing good. Doing good. It's been an eventful week. And yeah, there's some Chargers news to talk about, so I'm excited to talk about that. But mainly just yeah, man, excited to see you and then talk some Chargers football. How was your bracket? I was meaning to ask you.
Dude, that's how is anyone's bracket, man?
Did
Let's be
you
real.
did you hit any of your final four?
No, I don't think. I think probably 95% of the country didn't hit any of their final four.
Yeah, I think I saw a crazy stat that was like I can't remember the percentage on it, but it was only like 7,000 people out of all the brackets had the final four
And
correct. So
7,000 sounds crazy, but then you realize how many people do these
right,
brackets and
like
how many people. And
millions.
some people will enter these tournament challenge with like 30 different brackets in, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's an insane amount of
I only
brackets
filled
that
out
were.
one, so it was kind
I
of
did
weak.
too. I only like
But
filling out one just because then if I fill out multiple, then it kind of depends. I have to have one that I actually care about, or
yeah,
else it's hard to root. It's hard to know who to root for in each game. So
that's true. Yeah, I feel like if you have more than one, sometimes it feels like you're kind of like it's less sweet. Like if you have 10 and
yeah,
it's like you have one bracket that's like, well, okay, well, I had 10 tries. Like one of them had
same
to be
reason I do
decent.
only one. I only do one fantasy league every year too for that exact same reason. It's like, well, I'm rooting for this player this week, but I'm playing against this guy in another league. It's way too confusing. I just want to root for, who I want to root for. So
Right, right. So, well, yeah, man, I didn't hit anything. I think I had a couple Final Fours left in like the Elite Eight or Sweet 16, but it just
I
didn't
I
work
had
out.
one
So
elite. I got one Elite Eight team right. So if that
hey,
tells
I
you
had
anything
like
about how my March went,
I think I had 5 out of 8 right, but
I
then
think.
it just crumbled like from there.
Yeah, I think Texas. I think Texas was the only one I got right. So, oh well, man. Ho hum. It's been a really entertaining tournament though. So, can ask for more.
For sure, man. Well, hey, let's get into some bolts, beer, and banter. This is just where we, you know, kind of talk about our what we're drinking and any any banter that we want to talk about. So, to start us off, what are you sipping on over there?
New week, same me. I got a Coors Light. Um, I had quite a few beers this weekend. Obviously, in honor of March Madness, always got to find a reason to drink. And so I'm just drinking a Coors Light. I'm actually just about to polish this one off. But yeah, I know. I guys, I know. I need to get out there. Colin's a little bit doing this a little bit something different today. I should have thought outside the box a little bit more. But man, with that, what are you drinking, man?
Yeah, I went heavy today, so I went with the old rum and coke, mainly because it's all that I have in my cupboards and my fridge. So, um, yeah, it was kind of a last second. Oh shit, don't have any beer in my fridge, so let's make a little drinky poo, and we did.
I mean, I'm looking at my bottle of Crown right now, knowing that I have absolutely nothing that would pair well with it in my fridge, and just knowing that I'm stuck either drinking it straight or I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to force myself to go to the store. So that's the
Well,
situation I'm in.
I don't drink it straight. We're not like
I'm not drinking it straight right now, but I'm saying,
there are certain times I think that would call for that, and right now maybe if like this was the day after the playoff loss, I would say that's appropriate.
oh, that whole
Um,
bottle would have gone down the day after that
exactly,
playoff loss. So
exactly. So no, man. Yeah, that's all I had in the cupboard. So we're rolling with it. No beer this week, but maybe this weekend when we record, I'll have something new and fresh to review and to let you know about. But I was thinking the other day, if you this is just a total random thought that I had popping in my head. If you had to, and we'll keep it somewhat appropriate for our listeners, kiss one, marry one, and kill one. Like, all right, so 3 Charger players. All right, I'm gonna throw 3 Charger players at you. You got to kiss one, you got to marry one, and you got to kill one.
All right, I'm here for it.
All right. First one, Austin Ekeler.
Okay.
See where I'm kind of going with this. Uh, second one, I'm gonna go with Joey Bosa.
I know where you're going with this, yeah.
And third one, I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go Michael Davis.
All right. So not all right. So kiss, marry, kill of Austin Ekeler, Joey Bosa, Michael Davis. Right off the bat, I'm going to marry Joey Bosa.
Interesting. Okay. What? Why marry Joey Bosa?
I
Why
just feel
not? Why
like
not
I
kill him?
mean he's been a fan favorite of mine longer than those two. He's by far my favorite of those 3 on that list. He's the only one of those guys I have a jersey for. I met his mom, who's very cool. Shout out Cheryl if you're tuning in. Thanks for drinking with us in the Kansas City hotel lobby. Yeah, I gotta go marry Bosa. And this is where it gets tough. You know, man, I think I'm gonna I think when it comes to I want it to be based off the importance towards his team. I also picked Joey Bosa to be my marry because I think that he's more important than those other 2 guys. So I think I'm going to kiss Michael Davis and kill Austin Ekeler. As much as that
Ooh.
pains to say, I think Michael Davis plays a much more pivotal position. Plays one of the toughest positions in all of sports, if not the toughest. And we've really seen him kind of break out, come out of that shell. I think he's really earned it. And, Austin Ekeler, I'm sorry, man, you're still one of my fan favorites. You're one of our favorite players on the team, as for all Chargers fans, probably one of our favorite players in the NFL for all football fans, just with the way that you handle yourself and the amount of times you win fantasy leagues for people. But just when it comes to the importance of this team, there's a 100% chance that Joey Bosa and Michael Davis are on this team going forward, and you cannot say the same for Austin Ekeler. So, I'm going to err on the side of caution and go with the guy that I most likely think is not going to be in this for the long haul like those guys are and have been. Not that Austin Ekeler hasn't been in for the long haul in the past. Obviously, we saw him come up through this organization. But just for the future and who I think is most pivotal to this team, I'm gonna take the 2 guys on defense.
Yeah. No, I think that's it's very sound reasoning. I think I would agree with everything that you said. And I think killing Austin Eckler right now is probably the popular choice among Charger fans.
It hurt. Not that we want to kill. We don't actually want to kill you, Austin. This is a
No. Yeah.
hypothetical,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. No.
There
No.
goes our
No
chances of having
harm.
Austin Ekeler ever on the podcast. Just out the window right there.
No harm
But
done to Austin Eckler, please. But in this scenario, I feel like a lot of Charger fans probably would choose that just because of all the uncertainty, right? And I guess this is a good pivot point too, to talk about, the Austin Eckler situation itself. And, like, look, my first take on it when the news first broke was that, like, he deserves way more money than he's getting paid. So he's definitely not wrong on that end. But the question quickly becomes like, well, are running backs worth it to pay top dollar to? And we've already seen a couple of examples in recent years where it really hasn't panned out, even for the top of the market guys. I mean, I think of like Zeke Elliott, and I don't even know how much he got paid, but that it just seems like that deal gets worse and worse every year.
and then guys like that get all this money only for a dude named Tony Pollard to come in and do exactly
Right.
what he's been doing and maybe even better. So
Yeah, so it just the running back market, like how much of it how much of it dictates how much Eckler is actually going to get paid. And I think for the most part other teams are kind of on the same page the Chargers are on. Like they acknowledge his production, especially over the last 2 or 3 seasons. Um but there's just certain running backs that you would pay top dollar for, and there's certain running backs that you would probably kind of think twice about, and especially he's going into what his age
he's
29
20.
season,
He's 8 right. He's 28 right now, I believe.
28. So he's getting up there in terms of a running back lifespan. So, like I get it. I still want him around. I still think he will finish out this season as a Charger, and I think there's a strong possibility that they extend him to a shorter deal, maybe a 1 or 2 year deal, uh, to add on to his year that he has left. And honestly, I think that's what I'm most in favor of at this point. I really don't see this ending that messy. I think, and this is something that Brandon Staley talked about today at the annual league meetings, which are going on right now in Phoenix. And Brandon Staley had his annual press conference, or not his annual press conference, but just his press conference uh, at at the league meetings, and he had this to say about Austin Eckler. He basically said, um, you know, we want Austin Eckler around. Like we want him to be here in the long haul. Actually have the quote here. So the respect for Austin, I think from our side of things, is at the highest it could be for a player. We're going to go through this process, and basically see where it shakes out. So it sounds like at least the negotiations are. I mean, I don't know if there's actual negotiations going on at this moment, but it sounds like things are still civil between the two, and it should be. I mean, there's no reason for it to be messy. I think Tom Telesco and Brandon Staley both want Eckler to be part of this organization, and it's just about finding a reasonable solution that isn't going to screw the Chargers on the back end.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like you mentioned, I think all negotiations between them have not been, hard, like hard love or anything negative towards them whatsoever. It's not like he's going in there and he's just basically like, man, like screw these guys, I want out of here. He deserves his money. He deserves to get paid what he deserves to get paid. I mean, the stats speak for itself. Has the most touchdowns in the league over the last 2 seasons by a lot. Um, stats speak highly of Austin Eckler and the on-field production. I mean that we see. Um, we love what we see out of Austin Eckler. Just his versatility. Could he be a better downhill runner? Obviously, but I think his ability to catch balls in the pass game really makes up for something along those lines, and a lot of that can also be attributed to offensive line play, which should be at a higher caliber this upcoming season than it was last season. So
Yeah.
I think all of us fans want him back on the team. I hope that they can maybe figure out a cheap deal for another few years, or if it comes to it and we just get him for this year and he's gone next year, then I think both sides will part ways, probably smiling at each other and saying thanks for all the time that you gave us, and business is business.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, we'll continue to monitor it as it plays out. I think this for now it might take kind of a back seat with the draft coming up and with free agency still to play out. And then of course we won't really know until we get to OTAs and eventually this summer when we get to camp, we'll have a better picture of what the two sides are kind of feeling, and I really don't see him holding out. Like maybe he holds out for camp. Maybe he holds in like Derwin did last year. But I don't see him like at a certain point. Like you can't. I don't know. It's tricky for a player. Like I never know when to gauge. Like by you sitting out, like when does it actually hurt you?
And I don't think a lot of those questions. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a great point. It is kind of a fine line of when is this actually beneficial towards you versus when is this
Right.
really going to harm your production on the field. But I just think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered before OTAs and with the draft and just kind of what that backfield looks like in the coming months before we really can jump to any conclusions as to what's going to happen. Because as of right now, the running back market is just way too high for a guy like Austin Ekeler to really.
Where would you bring him back at money wise, dollar wise? I mean, because I think he gets paid like 6 mil, maybe six and some change right now. And I think the top guys are making close to like 14, 15, probably even higher than that.
I would have to look at some of the other contracts for running backs that happened this offseason. I know Miles Sanders kind of got a bag from the Panthers. But other top guys, I'm trying to think of other top guys that got signed this offseason. Just because I feel like that's a much better way to kind of gauge it based off of. All right, so Miles Sanders with the Panthers from the Eagles got 4 years, 25.4 million. So with 11 million guaranteed. So that's a lot. That's a lot of money for a dude whose production is nowhere near that of Austin
Yeah.
Ekeler.
I
Right
also
now,
feel like
I think that there's a very different line with what I would be comfortable bringing him back at right now versus what he would want to come back at right now.
yeah. I feel like Eckler. I don't. Yeah, the production, like it would be a bad idea. I feel like to give Eckler an incentive based deal just with all the production that we're used to him putting up. Because I mean, sometimes those pay off, right? It's like like that Miles Sanders deal. 11 million guaranteed, but could be worth up to 24 mil, right, over the span of the contract. I think I like kind of how that's put and how that contract is structured. But man, you would be and look, it's not like it's a bad thing if that player hits that production. That means good things are happening on the field, right? But it's just like where is the actual dollar sign that the front office is willing to be like, okay, if he wants to come back for X amount, we'll bring him back for maybe it's only a year or two, but at least we're still squeezing every drop out of this guy that we can production wise before he gets to that point where it starts to fall off a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I think if they're gonna sign him to a deal, especially I did look it up. He's 27, by the way. We said 28 earlier. He's 27.
Yeah, I thought he was
Um,
29 originally, so
yeah,
he's getting younger.
yeah. I mean, that's good for us, I guess, in our situation right now. But
So
yeah,
maybe it
you
would
got to
be
think if you're signing into a contract, it's in my eyes, it's really only got to be up to about a 2-year deal. Just because we know how fast some running backs can really age in the NFL. It seems like once you hit 30, that's when you really start to decline.
right.
So
Yeah, no, facts.
hopefully we haven't seen his prime. I wish him the best of luck, whether he's a Charger or not this upcoming season, which I believe that he will be. Maybe they'll just ride out this contract and then figure something out next offseason. But
Yeah.
realistically, if we were to kind of find a trade partner, what do you think that trade package would look like? What do you think we would get in return?
I have no idea. Not a first. I know that.
No,
I
not a
wouldn't. I wouldn't
first.
expect a first.
I'd be very happy with the second,
Yeah, yeah. I'd be thrilled with the second, and then anything else, maybe you can squeeze out of a team, maybe like a fifth or something.
fifth, and maybe a fast receiver.
Yeah, that. I mean, look, if you can get a couple, yeah, if you can get a couple good, I mean, like
Well, I
a
mean,
second and a fourth,
not even necessarily a receiver, but
yeah,
someone that
or a
would obviously
second
be
and a few
beneficial.
other decent, maybe like day three picks. I don't know, but
Second rounder and Tyreek Hill from Miami. I mean, who
right.
says no?
Yeah,
Besides
exactly.
Miami.
No, that'd be nice. Yeah, no, I have no idea, but I honestly don't even think it gets that far. Like, I really don't think it gets to a point where they're
Yeah,
finding an
I don't either.
actual suitor and they're like, hey, and it gets leaked out to the media. Like, I really don't think it gets that far. I think the two sides are going to have civil talks. It's going to be ongoing throughout the summer, throughout the spring, and throughout the summer. And yeah, I think we'll get more clarity. Obviously, I mean, as we go forward, we'll obviously have more clarity. But I really think it's going to be kind of in limbo until after the draft for sure.
Yeah, I like I mentioned earlier, I don't think we're going to get a whole lot of new news on that. Obviously, we heard from Brandon Staley today, but kind of what he said was really nothing outlandish, nothing that we
Right.
hadn't already expected. So I think until we hear otherwise, um, I like you mentioned earlier, like I mentioned, I expect Austin Ekeler to be a part of this team next year. Just I mean, he's given it some time. It seems like they've already kind of been looking out for some potential suitors, and I just don't think that the running back market has really played into his deck of cards quite right this offseason. So we'll see what happens. But as of right now, I don't expect much to happen for a while.
Yeah, I agree. Let's take this opportunity to pivot to another topic that came out of Brandon Staley's press conference today. That's really the theme of this episode is just taking away all of our takeaways from the press conference today and some different things that he addressed. But this next one is also a very important piece of news for Charger fans and yeah, just fans everywhere, I guess. Justin Herbert's extension. So Brandon Staley on Justin Herbert's extension, he says, "I think we're at the beginning of all that. I'm very confident that Justin is going to be going to be our quarterback for a long time, and that will make sure that we get a deal done." Um, News coming out today, I believe, that Joe Burrow and the Bengals, those talks are heating up. So I really think it's beneficial at this point for Herbert just to kind of sit back and see how that deal plays out and use that and really quarterbacks everywhere. I mean, I think that's could be a market resetter for top. Well, I think it will be a top or a market resetter for those top tier quarterbacks, and it's probably going to be a good blueprint for the Herbert deal as well. So if that's the case and those talks are heating up, then I expect Herbert to kind of sit on his hands and see how that unfolds.
I would. I mean, I'm not saying that it will get done, but I didn't know. I didn't hear the Joe Burrow talks were heating up, so that sounds like something may be done soon. But I would prefer Justin's deal getting done before Joe Burrow's because I think that we're at a point right now that whatever Joe Burrow gets, Justin's going to get more. So
It's gonna be really, yeah. I mean, like it's definitely a race. I feel like between those organizations
whichever one of those signs first
is probably gonna win
is going to
because
be the lesser paid one because the other
yeah.
person that signs after that will be either one's going to reset the market. I'm 100% confident in that.
Do you see Herbert taking any sort of like team friendly deal? Not that like, but I mean, come on, like,
I was going
does
to
he?
say, is there even such thing as a team friendly deal for a guy like Justin Herbert? Like, give him a
That's
blank check, dude.
that's the thing is like, but somehow Tom Brady managed to do it his entire career. And I'm not saying that like because if you think when you go back and think about like a guy like Tom Brady, the fact that he wasn't like consistently breaking contract records in New England, but I mean, and I know it's a lot of it's the organization and how they run
Well,
things,
and
and
times have just changed, dude. Like, I mean,
that's true.
if you were to
But
tell Patrick Mahomes' current contract to somebody 15 years ago, they would probably faint and die.
oh,
So
100%. But is there? And I guess what I mean by team friendly is there any way that like let's just say let's categorize team friendly as Burrow's deal gets done first, and Herbert still takes a little bit less.
oh,
Still
100%. I don't think
still gets all of his like everything and more that he deserves. Huge, big contract, but maybe just trims a little off the edges to kind of be like a like. Do you see him doing? Like, I feel like we kind of come to know him as this like just saint of a human being. Like, is there? Can you see any of that playing out of him kind of taking a maybe a little bit less?
I mean, yeah. I mean, to me, he's the second Messiah. So, and I think to most Chargers fans, we label him as that, as just the perfect person, perfect quarterback, perfect human, really in general. Which I mean, we just can't help, dude.
Returns
We love.
the shopping carts to their
I mean, he's
corral every time. I
can make a
mean,
killer brisket. I mean, what can't he do, man? So no, it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever to see him take a team friendly deal, but I just don't think that there's necessarily anything that is going to be team friendly about his deal. He's going to make a
Well,
shitload of cash.
I mean, that's true. I mean,
Well,
it's
but the team friendly aspect is the fact that he's going to be our quarterback for the next, 10, 15 years. That's the most team friendly thing about this. He's going to cross our fingers. He's going to get dudes a ring, and I believe that he will. But yeah, no, he's whatever deal he gets, it's going to be big. Do I know whether or not he'll get more than Burrow? It just depends on when they sign, in my opinion.
Jalen Hurts also eligible for a contract extension as well. So that's another guy in the market.
And
And
Lamar,
then
Lamar.
Lamar, the whole Lamar saga, we'll continue to see how that plays
This is
out.
going to
But
be a
that,
crazy offseason for quarterback extensions.
dude, yeah, that keeps getting uglier by the day, it seems like. And yeah, it's going to be nuts. But it's really cool to see some of these franchises have just locked down quarterbacks for a long time now. I wish they all weren't in the fucking AFC, but hey,
Jalen Hurts isn't, thank God.
yeah, thank God for that. But I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, I think they'll get a deal done. I don't. I think it has to get done this summer.
I don't think it necessarily has to, but I think it will. I think this organization thinks highly enough of Justin to, and
It has to in
obviously,
the sense of like they don't want it to be a. I don't think they would want it to be a distraction later on.
yeah, that's
Or
fair.
just a looming topic of like, oh, this is still something that we have to deal with or take care of. And if you don't get it done this summer, that means you go into the season not having it done. Doesn't matter. I mean, he's under contract all of next season, but then things get. I mean, and that's still just his fourth year, which he would have a fifth year option. So it's still, I mean, but I think it'll get done this year. And yeah, I mean, I think what you said is probably more accurate. It doesn't have to get done this summer, but I just think it
Quarterback
doesn't have
market,
to be. It doesn't have to be. It kind of does.
the quarterback market is only going to get higher and higher and higher with the amount of young talent in the league right now. Let's get it done as soon as possible. So
That's what I'm
just
saying.
we
Yeah,
can save a few numbers on that check.
that's what I'm saying, and I think it's beneficial for everyone to get it done before this next season starts. So, um, yeah, we will continue to stay on the Brandon Staley press conference train here. Next topic of conversation, and this has been a juicy one as well, with a former Charger leaving for a division rival, and that is former linebacker Drue Tranquill signing with the Kansas City Chiefs. When asked about that his departure, Staley had basically had this to say, and it was pretty simple. He goes, "It was more about the opportunity to onboard Eric Kendricks." Um, I mean, he continued to kind of gush about him for a minute or two there, but it really just sounds like the Chargers, Tom Telesco, Brandon Staley were sold on Eric Kendricks. He was an all-pro player back in 2019 with the Minnesota Vikings, and dude can ball. Dude's gonna be 31 though, so we'll see what version of Eric Kendricks we're getting.
Please
But
just don't be Thomas Davis 2.0.
and honestly, like everything in my heart kind of tells me that, like, I think, like, and I hope that I'm wrong, but I think that's where we might be heading.
It's just because we've seen it before, man. I'm not
We've been
saying
down this
we're
path a
not
few
making
times.
predictions on how Eric Kendricks will do, but we've
Tahio
seen this
Spikes.
shit before. Just knowing us Chargers fans, we've seen this shit before. It's the same shit that when they got up 24 in the wild card game at Jacksonville, I told all my friends I'm not comfortable, and then they fucking did it again. It's because we've seen this shit before. We know it's so easy to predict this franchise sometimes. And now I'm getting heated because I just really don't want that to be the case with Eric Kendricks. But it's just like, I don't know. We gotta make well on one of these
No.
old veterans that we sign on. It's like we're 0 for right now. 0 for quite a few. So
Yeah, no, I seriously hope I'm wrong when it comes to my thoughts on Eric Kendricks just being the latest free agent vet that the Chargers try to sign and squeeze whatever juice is left out of him, and there is no juice left to be squeezed. So I hope that's not the case. But I mean, it definitely, man, everything about the Drue Tranquill departure stings. The fact that he left for a division rival, the fact that he left for $3 million. Um, it's just the fact that he's only going to be 25 still. Uh, man, like it's just
Yeah.
it's tough to pour like more salt in the wound than that right there.
We talked about it last week, man. I don't. Yeah, it's just it's the taste of vinegar in my mouth. It's ugh.
Yeah, and so look, the Kendrick signing was the splash sign was and probably will be the splash signing of the entire offseason, just based on the cap situation this season. But um, linebacker going into 2023 is still going to be a very sketchy position for the Chargers.
Yeah, I know, and we know all the new we know everything about what we need to know about Brandon Staley on his linebackers. I really thought that there was a point before or after we signed Eric Kendricks before Drue Tranquill signed that we could bring them both back for sure. And I thought Eric Kendricks was just gonna step in and be a veteran presence, just like how we signed Kyle Van Noy last year after signing dudes like Khalil Mack, which obviously we brought KV in to play a different position and then had to step in with the Bosa injury. But yeah, I thought that there was still a chance we bring back Tranquill. Um, but yeah, Staley just doesn't really value linebackers like us, like everyone else does. We see, like you mentioned, I believe you mentioned last episode, when you see a dude like Ray Lewis or Luke Kuechly or Fred Warner. You watch those dudes play and you're like, damn, I want one of those on my team. But that's just not the case for Chargers fans. And I hope
Well, I
we're
mean,
both wrong on Eric Kendricks
yeah,
too, but who knows?
those aren't the case for a lot of teams. I mean, not it's very rare that you get a Junior Seau or a Ray Lewis or like those are Hall of Fame guys. But like even just, I mean, I think what's been the most frustrating for myself and probably other Charger fans as well is that that's a position that they've drafted really well at over the last handful of years. They've really hit on a couple of linebackers that have came up through the organization, homegrown, so to say, and like had solid production. I think of guys like Kaiser White. I think of guys obviously like Drue Tranquill. There's a few other that I can't think of off the top of my head, but um, yeah, I know. So it's to see those guys and even guys that aren't linebackers. Adrian Phillips, Desmond King, like just the talent that we've let leave this organization. Like going back to like if you go back and look at the 2017, 2018 rosters, so much talent everywhere across the board. Like a lot of those guys are still putting up big numbers and producing for their organizations today, wherever they're at, scattered across the NFL. So um that's always, I think, kind of been a theme that I've noticed about like during this Telesco tenure is that yes, he has, I think, for like for the majority, he's brought in pretty good, like he's brought in better talent than crappier talent
Yeah,
for the most part. I think that's fair to
that's a
say.
fair analysis. Yes.
But I also think he's done a really poor job at retaining that talent. And that's, I think, like it's so hard to like judge and like when you really feel like the absence of certain players, whether it's that immediate next season or if it's like 2-3 seasons down the line. But I really feel like there's a core group of guys that weren't core players at the time, but now they're core players for other people that we just kind of let walk for nothing. And I get it, like you can't keep everyone, money, it's a business. Like, you wish you could pay everyone and squeeze it into a salary cap, but it doesn't work that way. So I understand. But like the fact that you're letting guys walk for bare minimum, like that's a different story.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a rabbit hole we venture to quite often, but it's just it's so frustrating, dude. Like watching guys like Rayshawn Jenkins, Kaiser White, Desmond King, Adrian Phillips. It's like those are all dudes that started their NFL careers and came up through us. We're the ones that, kind of coached them into this talent that these other teams evaluated well and were able to take from us. And now they're out balling out on other teams when we definitely could have retained them for cheap. It's so frustrating as a fan.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like every year, and I think for the last couple of years, like I think the fan base has been pretty split on just Tom Telesco's like performance overall. And that's the thing about Tom is like I think he's a good. Do I legitimately think he's a good general manager? I mean, like, do I think he's in the top half of general managers in this league? And yes, I do. Like, I don't think he's inept. I don't think he's bad at his job. I don't think he has ego or lets anything like that get in the way. Um, I just think at times like he just makes the wrong decisions, like flat out. He gambles, and almost every GM does at some point. And for the most part, I feel like he's lost more than he's won when it comes to roster construction, when it comes to just how putting together staffs. I mean, he's on his third coach.
Yeah, I believe so.
So there's lots of ups and downs of his tenure being a GM, and like when you really zoom out, it's kind of tough to judge someone like that because it's like, well, here's all the good things he's done for us, and here's kind of all the not so great things, and I still think the good things outweigh the bad things. But yeah, man, I last season was a big like an all in year for Telesco, even though obviously he still kept his job. But having that cap space and being the coupon Tom guy that we've known for almost a decade, and then a new coach comes in, and now he's spending on everybody. He's buying new Ferraris and sports cars and every new dealership. Like he's just going out window shopping. So I have no idea, man. How do you feel in general about, like, if you had to give an honest assessment of Tom Telesco now that, I mean, he's basically been the general manager for your entire fandom.
Who was it before Tom?
It was AJ Smith.
So then did AJ Smith go with Norv Turner?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I remember some of AJ Smith, but like obviously that was when I was like, 10 years old, and 10-year-olds don't really give a shit about who the general manager is. But yeah, I mean, you look at hirings like Anthony Lynn, Mike McCoy, and it's like I feel like we had some pretty decent rosters through some of those years that just kind of went to waste, and then there were a few years that, our rosters were just shit. But, and especially Phillip Rivers' prime and things along those lines, I just feel like that there was a lot of missed opportunities over the years. But, I think Telesco, I think we're going in the right direction with him. Obviously, we have a franchise quarterback, which you think about some teams, it takes forever to find your franchise quarterback. I mean, look at teams like, Cleveland or, Indianapolis, since Peyton Manning has been gone. I mean, I guess they had luck, but, that obviously didn't pan out the way that it should have. So I'm giving him some more time, just because now we really have this true massive weapon in Justin Herbert. And I think that last season was just kind of one step in the process. The J.C. Jackson signing hasn't really gone our way quite yet. Hope to see more out of him last year, but when we did see him on the field, hope to see him out there much more this year. But when we did see him on the field last year, he had his struggles, that's for sure. And then I think that we just got too small of a sample size to really judge him yet. After the season-ending injury, and then everything else just kind of went to shit last season. With Slater got hurt, Bosa got hurt, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen both missed time. Offensive line was all banged up. Derwin James missed a few games. There really wasn't a star player that didn't get hurt last year, including Justin Herbert. He got hurt, but he's just a tough son of a bitch, so we played through it. So I'm gonna give him more time. See what this roster can look like fully healthy for a season around Justin Herbert. See what we can do this draft. This is my favorite time of year for Tom Telesco, man. The draft. We know how well he can draft. But like you mentioned, it's about retaining those draft pieces. You know, those fourth, fifth, third rounders that we seem to bring in. They succeed, and then we drop them like a bad habit. We need that trend to stop for sure. And then I'm looking forward to how the draft goes. 21. I think Brandon Staley mentioned something about picking 21 in the draft, and he said that there's going to be a lot of options available, and adding firepower is a must at that 21 pick, especially for Justin Herbert. So
I have it right here. Actually,
there we go.
it's a great segue. He says where we're picking, it's wide open. I think in this draft, sort of later in the first round, early in the second round, there's going to be a bunch of good players there to draft. He also went on to say, I know me and Tom both feel the same way about this draft class as well. So Chargers trading back, question mark, exclamation
I think
point.
you're way overreading that now. We did not have nearly enough information for that kind of speculation. But
I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm not
I'm just
saying that
throwing
it
it
wouldn't
out
be a
there.
bad idea. It just depends who's all at number 21 and who we can trade back and still get.
Yeah, no, it's well, obviously it depends on like who gets taken 1 through 20, right? Like last year we went into the draft with I want to say almost a similar feel of like, oh, okay, we're kind of like that
At
late first
17,
round.
yeah.
Yeah, 17 mid to late first round like we'll have a 3 4 players that are still going to be there that that we can choose from. And literally it was just from pick number 1 like a all out purge. And by the time Chargers got to 17, like I don't even think Zion. I mean, Zion, I'm sure it was mocked to us in a handful of drafts, but that was, I mean, it was a great pick, but also kind of surprising when they called out his name a little bit. Like just because like I kept seeing guys go off the board that I'm like, damn, I didn't think he was going to go that high. I thought he was going to be there at 17.
Yeah, I think once 17 rolled around last year, I just crossed my fingers and said, please don't be Trevor Penning. And then I
Yeah.
was all good. So, but yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised with the similar draft this year, except I think there's so many prospects, at these explosive positions. I don't really know. I'm not good at watching film over an offensive lineman and being able to consistently watch rep after rep and be like, okay, yeah, I like what he did there. I like what he did that. That's just not my football background. This draft though is right up my alley, especially if it's a speed receiver or a tight end. Like those are dudes I can throw on the film and be like, all right, yeah, this guy kicks ass. I love this dude. And so far, just from what I've seen, just from Twitter, seeing things on Twitter, seeing things on Pro Football Focus, all over the place. I have a lengthy list of dudes that I would 100% be okay with at 21, and there's just no feasible way that they're all gone once we get to that 21 spot. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I I think this year it's a little easier to evaluate as well at that 21 pick. At least for our Chargers standpoint. Um I I honestly I think a lot of it like we're in that smoke and mirrors, time of year where everything that gets put out basically from now until I mean, I think are we what exactly a month away from the draft? We're
Probably, yeah.
recording this on March 27th,
I think that the draft starts March 27th or 28th. Yeah.
April, you mean?
Fuck yeah. April 27th. Yeah. We're exactly 1 month from the draft.
Yeah, so dude, this entire upcoming month is just going to be, I mean, it's propaganda, you know, teams trying to put smoke and mirrors out there and it's gonna it gets crazy every year this time of year leading up to the draft. So um it's still way too early for me to really even know, like, do I have my personal favorites and who I would draft if I were the GM? Like, yeah, sure. But as to like what I actually think they're they're thinking, I have no idea. I have no
No.
clue.
No, I know, and it feels like this time of year we have, a little bit more of a sense of kind of what our biggest. Well, we know what our biggest needs are from a fan's perspective. It's just all about, does Telesco see this the same way?
And also, like, again, I think picking at 21, you have to have a certain mindset. Like that's where I think Telesco excels as a GM is like, okay, like knowing that all right, if you're picking at 21, like you have a handful of players that you've evaluated that are going to be in that range that you can choose from, but like also being prepared to that next level or like a year like last year where it's like if all five of those guys are off the board by the time you get to 21 or late first round, like you have to have another set of guys
Mhm.
that so that's easier said than done, I think and also just like not getting your hopes tied up. I mean, picking at 21, like so much stuff can happen before you actually pick. That's a lot of picks, and we've seen crazy trades in years past, and um, it's yeah. I mean, we've seen teams like the Chiefs just like be ultra aggressive in the draft too. Where we saw them trade up and get Patrick Mahomes like at what the 15th pick, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think
and like just I mean, we've seen teams like stay aggressive even though they're they don't have a top end draft pick. Like they still find ways to get up there and get premium guys. So yeah, man, I'm still gonna lean offense in this draft. I mean, I think if I did lean defense, it would be probably at edge or DB. I mean, I don't see a linebacker being taken in the first round, especially by the Chargers. And yeah, offensively, I think the line is set, so there's no offensive lineman that needs to be taken on day one. It's got to be, in my mind, it's got to be tight end, receiver, or running back.
it's a weapon for Justin Herbert in general.
Weapon. It's a weapon. It's got to be a weapon.
So
I mean
I 100% agree. Hopefully
that's
they agree
what
too.
logic tells me, but then again, my logic could be completely off, and usually is. So
Well, that's what logic tells me too, but we've been wrong in the past. I really just hope it feels like this time of year we have a little bit more. We see like the Chargers are visiting blanks, pro day, or Chargers have had a meeting with
yeah.
so and so, and I mean we've seen a little bit of that, but it feels like that I've seen more of that, and I'm sure that'll start to pick up, in the coming weeks. So, yeah, man, I'm excited for whatever happens on the 27th. I wish that it wasn't a month away. I get antsy for the draft. So
So you see no possibility of the Chargers trading down.
no, I completely could see that happening.
Oh,
I
you
just
should.
think
Okay.
it depends on talent evaluations going forward, and who they really like as prospects, and we just don't have that information right now.
See, I think it depends mainly on like draft night itself.
Yeah,
Like if they get to like 16, 17 and they're like, "Oh shit, like a lot of our guys are out like getting purged off this board," then let's just pick at 21 and get our guy and call it a night.
yeah.
Or if they get to like 19, 20 and there's like still four or five dudes on their board, like that they're like, we're good with either one. Trade back to like 24, 25,
I hope it doesn't bite them in the ass, but
and then you got to pray that those next three picks don't absolutely screw you.
yeah, exactly.
But I mean, you're still getting compensation for that. So
Yeah, yeah. I know. I just don't think we have enough. We don't know. We know what our needs are. We just need that reassurance that they also know what our needs are, and I'm sure they 100% do.
oh,
Because
they know, they
yeah,
know. It's just
I mean they're the owners. They are the ones that run the team. They know their shit, obviously.
yeah,
But
and
it feels like that is one fear of Telesco that I've had over the years. Is like, well, damn, like I really don't want this to happen. Like it was just like we didn't want Jerry Tillery to make the team last season, but something about this team and talent evaluations is it scares me a little bit. I
yeah,
mean,
it's hit or miss. I feel like sometimes. Um, But yeah, man, I don't know. I feel like this year, like Telesco, he's the best player available guy, right? That's kind of been his mantra when it comes to draft season. Best player available. We don't care. Like we want to bring in the best and most talented guys that we can, and we'll figure it out once we get him in the building.
Yeah.
That's kind of always been his mantra, right?
Yeah.
There's a real. I think there's like a more than really good chance, like probably an overwhelming chance that the best player available at 21 is offense, regardless of. I mean, there could maybe be one or two guys. I'm thinking of like maybe like Brian Branch from Alabama. He's a safety. He's kind of like expected to go in that range, and they could have maybe a guy like him. A highly touted best player available at the board on the board at the time. So like there are maybe one or two, but like majority of those best player available prospects, I think at 21, at least from what we've seen so far in the draft process, it falls on the offensive side.
Yes, I agree completely. I think this draft, especially for later in the 20s, has I think this is a good draft to be at 21 because I think there's a lot of good talent available in the 20s that
Yeah.
teams like in the 10s, in the teens up there don't necessarily look at. I think that there's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of talent that will fall to 21. So,
And one of my favorite things to look forward to every draft is the handful of teams that just reach like a mother, and
Raiders.
you're just like the second that name comes off, you're like, okay, well, that's basically like a we could just moved up a spot in the draft
Yeah,
because they
the
just moved
Raiders
in the
select
pick.
Cleveland Farrell. The Raiders select Henry Ruggs. The Raiders
Right.
select, basically
The
somebody new
Raiders
every single
select.
year. The Raiders.
The Raiders
I
just select.
I've honestly started almost enjoying watching them draft just as much as the Chargers because it's like, all right, well, this dude's going to be out of the league in 4 years. So
Dude is not getting his fifth year option. No chance.
no, not whatsoever. So, but yeah, that's how I feel on the draft. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too, man. Me too. Um, I think the last couple of things I had here on our list was some notable signings that happened. I think they happened both of them today. Joe Gaziano signing a deal with the Falcons. So salute Joe Gaziano. Thank you for your service. Thank you for I can't think of did he have a sack in the Miami game?
I think he might have had half a sack. I don't know if it was
Yeah.
Miami game, but
Trying to think
I,
of
I
my
he had a sack. I know that he had a sack. I don't think it was Miami game, but I know that he had a
most
sack.
memorable Joe Gaziano moment. I know it was a sack. I've seen him get a sack. I just can't remember which game it was in.
I remember watching him at Northwestern in college. That's probably my most memorable Joe Gaziano moment.
There you go.
I like
There you
saying his
go.
name though, so
Yeah.
it comes off the tongue nice. So thank you for your service, Joe Gaziano.
Troy Reader signing with the Vikings as well. So
I know Troy Reader was a big guy that you wanted to see back on the team. And I
yeah,
mean, I did for especially in special
just for
teams
depth.
terms.
Yeah. I mean, I would have felt better if had we retained a guy like him. And I know Staley loves him. So that's a little surprising to see him kind of just walk. But also, I didn't realize like how many did we just sign everyone last year to 1 year deals? Like I
It
feel
seems
like
like it. We had
last year, like I was like, oh my god, okay, we have like this like 2 3 year window now with all these guys, and it's like everyone that we signed last year, like Bryce Callahan, Kyle Van Noy, Troy Reader, um, like yeah, everyone's like I didn't realize that they were all 1 year deals.
a lot of
I don't
veteran
know.
deals, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that I mean that makes sense too. Um,
At least that makes sense for Kyle Van Noy and Bryce Callahan. I guess I don't even know how old Troy Reader is.
yeah, yeah. So I was just like, man, I feel like we just signed these guys and we're already done with them. Like so.
Yeah. Sucks that Troy Reader's not coming back. Nice depth piece, but it's not like we just traded away someone that's going to become the next Patrick Willis. At least I don't think.
Yeah,
So
no. It would have been a nice depth piece. Nice to also have on special teams. That's where most of his production came from this year. So yeah,
thank you
again,
for your
just
service.
another reason why I kind of look at linebackers, our linebacker group in particular, and I'm like, man, like I was already kind of like that with Drue Tranquill and Troy Reader on the roster, and now those guys are gone.
Man, I think for fun this offseason, I'm really gonna hop on the Nick Niemann train. Don't ask me why. I got a feeling, man. I think Nick Niemann's gonna become him. So
We might need him to become him.
he will become him. I promise you. He's played Big Ten football. He knows what it's about.
All right,
So
man.
for the Iowa Hawkeyes,
You heard it here first.
but Nick
Well,
Niemann's my guy going forward until I say otherwise.
yeah. And the last thing I had here on the list was just the current state of free agency, and I think right now it's most people I think would probably agree that the Chargers are just kind of in this wait and see phase. Wait and get some bets on some cheap deals maybe after the draft. After the draft, a lot of teams and organizations will have a better idea of what their roster looks like. So we typically tend to see kind of that next wave of free agency almost immediately after the draft. So, and then even then, it stretches into spring ball, OTAs, and all that stuff. So into the summertime. So I think this is going to be a free agency where they had to strike it a little bit in that first wave to at least get something. And now I think they're just kind of playing the wait game. And I could see this team, especially with how the cap space is set up, signing some more cheap 1-year vet deals to fill out the roster this year, and then probably rinse and repeat next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. We've definitely been very quiet this year, post to last year especially. I think that we've done a good job of retaining, for the most part, retaining who we needed to retain. And I mean, we knew coming into this offseason we weren't going to be huge spenders in free agency. So I don't really have a gripe with anything we've done. Eric Hendricks is a nice signing. And yeah, I'm fine with it. No, really no complaints from me.
Yeah. So, well, man, anything else you want to add in here? We're right about at an hour. So,
No, man, I'm hungry. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go eat some dinner. So,
well, good stuff, man. Let's go ahead and get out of here. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of Chargers Powder Hour. This has been episode number 68, episode number 3 of season 2. And yeah, lots to look forward to. We have the draft coming up in about a month. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We have a Twitter page, Instagram. We now have a Facebook page as well, and a YouTube. You can catch them all at Powder Hour Pod LA. Those are our handles, if you will. And if you just search Chargers Powder Hour Podcast and YouTube, you'll be able to find our channel and find all of the episodes on there as well. Thank you guys for listening. As always, bolt up, and we will see you next time.